To Zimbabwe next, where the UN says almost 60% of rural people will be living with severe hunger between January and March of next year. In April 2024, the government declared a state of emergency and then disaster. The harvest failed. So dire, officials even announced plans to cull elephants for food. But some people, particularly women, are foraging wild crops like baobab fruit as a critical source for both food and income.
Loveness Betoni has long collected baobab fruit from the massive trees around our homestead. It's been a welcome addition to her family's usual staples of corn and millet. But this year, drought driven by climate change and El Niño meant her regular crops failed.
We didn't harvest any crops this year. We're only able to survive because of the money from baobab fruits. We can only buy corn and salt. Cooking oil is a luxury because the money's simply not enough. Sometimes I spend a month without buying a bar of soap. I can't even talk of school fees or children's clothes.
Often dubbed the tree of life, the baobab produces fruit that is extremely nutritious. Rich in fat and vitamin C, its taste is often compared to that of grapefruit and vanilla. It's been eaten in Africa for thousands of years, and the US and the EU licensed the sale of the fruit 15 years ago. Since then, the baobab trade has been booming. A kilo sells for €30 in Germany, but Loveness says she only sees a fraction of that.
The prices are low, sometimes just 50 cents for 5 kilos. I need 5 sacks to buy a 10-kilo packet of cornmeal. The fruit is in demand, but the trees didn't produce much this year. So some days I can't fill 1 sack.
For Loveness, the baobab trade only took root in her area in 2018, and it's proven a lifeline for tens of thousands of rural people like her. The African Baobab Alliance estimates that 2.5 million African families could profit from the fruit. Zimbabwe's state-run export agency estimates that the country has about 5 million baobab trees, and commercial exploitation is the basis of a growing industry. But local politicians warn the power is with the buyers.
When the buyers come to take our product, they have their own listed prices. But what I think they should do is to meet and consult us. As the local leadership, we agree on pricing. People have no choice because they have nothing. The buyers are imposing prices on us, and we don't have the capacity to resist because of hunger.
Loveness has already collected all the fruit from the trees close to her home, and she has to spend 8 hours a day searching through the savannah for more. The next lean period will last till next March, and right now, Loveness cannot know how long her lifeline is.
For more on this, we're pleased to welcome Gus Le Breton from the African Baobab Alliance. He joins us from just north of the capital, Harare. Gus, give us some perspective here. Are African harvesters, again, mostly women, anywhere close to maximizing their profits from this fruit?
Yes, they are. I mean, I think most harvesters, certainly, I can't speak for harvesters all across Africa because it's obviously varies from country to country. But the harvesters that I am familiar with here in Southern Africa are getting certainly 3 or 4 times more from selling baobab into the international market than they would be if they had been selling it into the local market just for sale as a whole fruit. So, yeah, I think they're actually doing pretty well out of it. Of course, they would like to be doing better and they would like to be earning more. That's natural. And I'm quite confident, as I said, that in future they will be able to earn more. But I think right now they're doing pretty well out of it, all things considered. And another thing that's very important to understand is that there's no costs to to harvesting baobab fruit. Unlike any form of agricultural production, which requires a farmer to buy seed from an international company, to buy fertilizer from an international company, to put in their labor in weeding and land preparation, with baobab, all that a harvester needs to do is to go and collect the fruit and store it and then sell it.
If they're getting close to what they should be getting in terms of the profits on this, given the fact that there is a drought, an ongoing drought that's been going on in much of southern Africa, it sounds like what you're saying is it would be a bad idea to rely on the selling of this fruit for most of your income.
I don't think any harvester that is depending on baobab fruit for their income is doing so because out of choice.
Yeah.
They are doing so. So it's not like anyone's got a choice in it. They're doing so because in the area where baobab exists and is producing fruit, there's basically nothing else. So it's an unfortunate situation for them, but let's also look at it the other way around. If there was not an international market for baobab, those people would be in dire straits. And the income that they are earning this year from the sale of baobab fruit is probably the difference in, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, the difference between life and death for those communities.
What is the biggest challenge right now preventing the baobab trade from becoming a major earner for rural African communities?
The biggest challenge right now that is constraining growth in the baobab industry and benefits, the flow of benefits to rural harvesters, is the lack of awareness internationally around baobab fruit and the relatively small demand for it. If we were able to see major international food companies incorporating baobab into some of their foods, and it's an amazing and tasty superfruit from Africa. If we were to see more of that, you would see far more benefits flowing to a much greater number of rural women harvesters across the African continent.
And again, one more time, how critical is the baobab trade for these local African harvesters, particularly women in these rural communities?
The baobab trade is incredibly important to them because of the very dry areas and the very drought-prone areas where they live. They tend to grow, their agricultural practices tend to revolve around crops that are actually from other parts of the world. So in that area, they are of Zimbabwe, their primary crop is maize. Maize does not come from Africa, maize comes from Central America. It's not adapted to African agroecological conditions. And when a drought happens, as it does very frequently, especially with changing climatic conditions, the maize crop fails. Baobab trees, on the other hand, are evolved to suit the local conditions. And I've never heard of a baobab tree failing to produce fruit in a drought year. The baobab trees produce fruit every single year, irrespective of the climatic conditions. So it is the one thing on which those communities can rely no matter what the climate does to them.
Our thanks to Gus Le Breton from the African Baobab Alliance. Again, many thanks, sir.
Thank you.